Henry the Hedgehog's Great Adventure. Henry was not an ordinary hedgehog. Unlike most of his spiny friends who preferred to spend their days sleeping in cozy burrows or munching on worms and berries, Henry was an adventurer at heart. He lived in a quiet meadow on the edge of the great forest, where the wind whispered through tall trees and sunlight danced across the fields. Life in the meadow was peaceful, with the birds singing their familiar songs and the streams trickling with the melody of nature. But Henry often found himself daydreaming about distant lands and mysterious creatures. What lies beyond the meadow, he would wonder. The great forest loomed large and intimidating, but to Henry it was filled with endless possibilities. One crisp autumn morning, with the sky painted in hues of orange and pink, Henry made up his mind. Today, he said to himself, I'm going to explore the great forest. He packed a small satchel with his favorite treats, some plump blueberries, a handful of hazelnuts, and a single acorn he had saved for a special occasion. He strapped the bag over his tiny, spiky back and took a deep breath. Before setting off, Henry said goodbye to his best friend, Leela, a little field mouse who lived nearby. Are you sure about this, Henry? Leela asked with wide, worried eyes. The great forest is full of unknown dangers. No one's ever explored it and returned with tales to tell. That's exactly why I must go, Henry replied, his heart pounding with excitement. There are so many things I don't know about the world. What if there's something wonderful out there? Leela sighed but gave Henry a tight hug. Be careful, she said softly. Come back safe, okay? Henry nodded, a twinkle in his eyes, and with that he turned toward the forest. As he approached its towering entrance, the trees seemed to close in, their ancient trunks standing like silent guardians. The light grew dimmer as the dense canopy of leaves overhead filtered the sun, and soon Henry found himself in a world of shadowy green. The forest floor was soft with moss and damp earth, and the air was rich with the scent of pine and damp wood. For hours Henry walked deeper into the forest. He marveled at the towering trees, their bark gnarled and ancient, and the way shafts of light would break through the foliage, casting glowing beams on the path ahead. Occasionally he heard the scurrying of creatures, though none showed themselves. He wondered what kinds of animals lived here, hidden from the world. As the day wore on, Henry found himself at the edge of a large, shimmering pond. The water was so clear that he could see all the way to the bottom, where tiny fish darted between the pebbles. Henry took a moment to rest by the water's edge, sipping from the cool pond and nibbling on some hazelnuts. Soft rustling came from the nearby bushes. Henry froze, his spines prickling with caution. From the underbrush, a pair of large, curious eyes peered out at him. Slowly, a creature emerged and nodded, sleek and graceful, with fur that shimmered like silver in the dappled sunlight. Hello there, the otter said in a friendly voice. I haven't seen you around these parts before. What brings a hedgehog so deep into the forest? Henry, a little startled but relieved that the stranger seemed kind, replied, I'm Henry. I've come from the meadow to explore the great forest. I want to see what lies beyond. The otter smiled. My name is Orion. You're quite brave, Henry. Not many have the courage to venture so far from home. The forest is vast, and there are many things both wonderful and dangerous that dwell here. Henry's curiosity grew even stronger. "What kind of wonderful things?" he asked eagerly. Orion's eyes sparkled. "Well, if you're looking for wonder, you should meet the wise old owl. She lives deep in the heart of the forest, in a place called the Glimmering Grove. It's said that she knows everything there is to know about the forest and beyond." Henry's heart skipped a beat. The idea of meeting someone so wise and knowledgeable filled him with excitement. "How do I get to the Glimmering Grove?" Orion pointed toward the darkening woods. "Follow the river upstream," he said. "It will lead you to the grove, but be careful. The path is not easy, and there are those in the forest who might not be as friendly as me." Henry thanked Orion for his guidance and set off once again, following the river as it wound its way deeper into the forest. The further he went, the more the trees seemed to close in around him, their branches like skeletal arms reaching out to touch him. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of the forest changed. Soft hoots and rustles replaced the gentle birdsong of the meadow. As night began to fall, Henry felt a pang of unease. The forest seemed darker now, more mysterious, and the shadows danced in strange ways. He knew he couldn't turn back. He was too far from home. But he also felt a growing sense of adventure, a thrill that kept him moving forward. Suddenly, from behind a thicket of ferns, Henry heard a deep, rumbling growl. His heart raced as he slowly turned to see a pair of glowing yellow eyes staring at him from the shadows. A large, shaggy creature stepped into the dim light. It was a wolf with fur the color of ash and a snarl that set chills down. "What do we have here?" The wolf growled, its eyes narrowing. "A little hedgehog, far from home?" Henry's legs trembled, but he stood his ground. "I'm on a journey to find the Glimmering Grove," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I don't mean any harm." The wolf chuckled, a low, menacing sound. "The Glimmering Grove, foolish creature. No one makes it that far. The forest is full of dangers, and I am but one of them." Henry swallowed hard. "I may be small," he said, "but I am determined. I won't let anything stop me." For a moment the wolf seemed to consider this, then with a sigh it stepped back. "Very well, little hedgehog," the wolf said. "You have courage. I'll give you that. I won't stop you, but be warned, the path ahead is treacherous. Many have tried to reach the grove, but few have returned." With that the wolf disappeared into the shadows, leaving Henry standing alone in the cold, silent forest. His heart was still pounding, but he felt a strange sense of accomplishment. He had faced one of the forest's dangers and come out unscathed. Determined more than ever, Henry continued on his way. The river led him through dense thickets, over fallen logs, and across slippery stones. Hours passed, and Henry grew tired, but he refused to give up. The thought of reaching the Glimmering Grove and meeting the wise old owl kept him going. Just as dawn began to break, casting a soft golden glow over the forest, Henry reached the edge of a clearing. Before him lay the most beautiful sight he had ever seen, a grove filled with shimmering trees whose leaves glowed with an ethereal light. The grass beneath his feet sparkled as if dusted with stardust, and in the center of the grove stood an ancient oak, its branches stretching high into the sky. Atop the oak, perched on a thick, gnarled branch, was the wise old owl. Her feathers were a deep, rich brown, and her eyes, large and golden, gleamed with wisdom. She regarded Henry with a gentle smile. "Welcome, young hedgehog," she said in a voice as soft as the wind. You have traveled far to reach this place." Henry, awestruck by the beauty of the grove and the presence of the owl, bowed his head respectfully. "I've come seeking knowledge," he said. "I want to know what lies beyond the forest, beyond the meadow where I live." Chuckled softly. "You are a curious one, aren't you? Few creatures venture so far from home in search of answers." She spread her wings and glided down from the branch, landing gracefully before Henry. "The world is vast," she said, "and full of wonders and dangers alike. But the greatest adventure of all is not the one that takes you far from home. It is the one that takes you deep within yourself." Henry frowned, "Not quite understanding within myself." The owl nodded. "You have already shown great courage, determination, and kindness on your journey. These are the qualities that make you strong. The answers you seek about the world lie not just in the places you explore, but in the lessons you learn along the way." Henry thought about this for a moment. He had faced danger, met new friends, and discovered things about himself he hadn't known before. Perhaps the wise old owl was right. Perhaps the greatest adventure was the one that had changed him on the inside. "Thank you," Henry said softly. "I think I understand now." The wise old owl smiled and ruffled her feathers. "Go home, young hedgehog," she said gently. "Your journey has just begun." And with that, Henry turned and made his way back through the forest, his heart lighter and his mind filled with newfound wisdom. The forest no longer seemed scary.